Hi guys, today I'm going to show you the newest question type we've recently added to BookWidgets. It's a brand new question type, it's just 1 week old and it's called, equations. So here with this question type, students can answer your equations, so they can do some math using math symbols as well. So up until before, it wasn't possible for students to really add mathematical symbols that weren't on their keyboard on their computer, but now this is possible because we built a math equation editor, so they can just add the symbols as well. So just click on this question, and then we're going to add our question here, calculate the equations below. We're going to use Latex. So this is really a language, a mathematical language, to add symbols as a teacher in a software program. So otherwise we cannot read it, so we'll have to use Latex. Just click here. So need to enter math or chemistry formula, learn more here, click on it, and we'll show you how to use Latex to build math and chemistry formula. This is a cheat sheet, so just click on it so you know how to use it. We're always going to use $2 in front of the equation and $2 in the end of the equation. And then eventually this is how it will show for your students, so they will see the symbols right away. This question type really works like just a fill-in-the-blanks question type. So if you're familiar with the fill-in-the-blanks question type, this should be easy. If you're familiar with LaTeX, this should be even easier. So here is the part where I'm going to add some mathematical formulas, some mathematical things my students have to solve. And what they have to solve, I have to put between brackets. So they will get an empty field, and it will be automatically graded as well, because as a teacher, I already gave the answer in the editor right here. So let's get started. I'll show you some things that are possible with this question type. So the first thing is, what's the right formula for water? And then I want my students to answer it here in this question. So I'm going to give them a field in which they can answer the question. And I'm going to do this by adding the answer between brackets. So in this case, we have to add the brackets here, then give the answer and close the brackets again. So in this type, I'm going to use LaTeX to give the formula for water. So I have to add $2, add the LaTeX language for the math symbols like here, and close it again with brackets. That's it. If I click on a preview to see how this looks like for my students, so in the preview, I can see what my students will see. And this is, of course, the normal title and then the assignment that I wrote into the text part of this question. So what's the right formula for water? The equation, the formula I added is now blank, so my students can just fill it in. They click on it, and this is where the magic happens. So in this case, my students get this formula equation editor, and they can click on it to add the right formulas that are not on their keyboard. So they can just start adding it. So H, then we click on the symbol that is mentioned here, and this is something that BookWidgets does automatically. So if you give in the right answer as a teacher, we know what kind of symbols our students might use, and then we show this in the equation editor. So click here, add a 2, and then we can click here again, or we can use these arrows and add a no. And that's it. I installed it, I configured it. I configured this question to be automatically graded. So if I can click on show answers and click on yes, I can see that this is the right answer and it's automatically graded. I'm going to show you some more things in this question type as well. And I go back. And in the text field, you can add more things as well. So you don't have to add just one exercise. You can just start adding more text and more formulas and equations right in here. So I have one ready for you. So the next thing I want my students to do is to convert 16 to an exponential number. So in this case, 16 would be the exponential number of 4 by 2, but there's another possible answer as well. So if you want to add another number that should be graded automatically correct, then you can add it by adding 2 hashtags and then add the possible answer after it that should be graded correct as well. So again, we're using the latex, so we're using the symbols, the $ symbols. Then we have the 2 and exponential 4. And this is actually 16 as well. So in both cases, whether your students are going to add this or whether your students are going to add this, in both cases, they will be graded correct. Again, if we go to preview, we can see how this looks like for our students. They just get one solution here. So they get just one field in which they can enter their number. And because we added exponential numbers, this is possible as well. So here we had the chemistry formula, but again, here it detects that your student will need this symbol as well. So we'll try it out. So we have both things that would be correct. So we click on this one, and 4. And then we click on show answers, yes, and this is graded correct. The students can get this answer if you configured it like this, and they can see that both will be correct as well. I go back. So in this, if I go after my LaTeX, I can see that I just added matrices, and my students have to calculate both matrices and count them to each other and count them with each other. So we have this matrix and then matrix, and we have this as well. And then they have to come to a solution. And again, the solution I put between 2 brackets, and then I start with a $sign, I end with 2 $signs, and in between I put my mathematical solution in LaTeX. Again, here I can see what the solution is. If I click on preview again, this will show my students. These are the calculations I didn't put between brackets, so this is something my students can see, and everything that I put between brackets my students cannot see. Here again, the editor detects that they have to add matrices, so they can just add it by clicking on the right format here, and then they can choose how big it should be. So they can just click here, and then they can start filling out here the right numbers. So we have a 1, we have a 2, 8, 3, 5, and 4, like this. If you don't have arrows on your keyboard, students can just use these to mark a number they just added, like this. Or they can use these arrows to just jump between the numbers and eventually delete it or change that. Again, click on show answers to see if it's correct. Here I have made a mistake, so 1 + 1 should be 2. And this is the solution right here, so students can see immediately why it's wrong or right if you configured it like this. So sometimes you want to give your students a space to think and to calculate before they come to a solution. So in this question type, students have to transform the equation. They have to find x, of course, and they have to write it down here in the end. We can use those brackets with open answers, so by showing nothing, just to give them a format to just think and add their steps in between the calculation for the teachers to see as well. In the end, you could ask them to add the right answer, and that can be, of course, automatically graded as well. So then we can click on preview and we can see again what is shown for the students, like this. So here you can see transform the equation, and below we have these these empty fields. They can just think they can just add everything they want, and then in the last one they have to add the right solution. In this case, they have to, we detect that they have to use a fraction, and this symbol will show as well in the equation editor. So they can just click on this, -4, 3, like this, and then show the answers, yes, and then here it will be graded correct. I go back and there are two more things I want to show you. One is, of course, the scoring options. So as you know, with BookWidgets, if you're adding a question, you always have to go to the scoring options. In this case, students will get a point for each answer they can fill out. As you saw earlier when I went to preview to show how it looks for my students get this editor to add some things. What if they need more numbers, more symbols that we cannot detect? So there's a solution for that. You can give your students an equation editor with standard symbols you've decided to show as a teacher to your students. And this is where you can find it. So go to General here of your quiz or your worksheet. And then here below we have this equation editor. So in this case, if it's blue, you can see it here below. The symbol will be shown in the group if it's used. If we as BookWidgets can detect one of the symbols in the answer that your students have to add, in the answer that will be automatically graded as well, we will show it to your students. But of course, you can choose to always show symbols as well, or always hide symbols as well. And this is how you do it. Just click on it. So I always want to show my students these basic symbols. And I just want to show those symbols. Maybe this one as well. It depends on what you are teaching. Then go back to your questions. And now when I go to preview, BookWidgets will not only detect the symbols that students have to use, but it will also show the symbols that you indicated that BookWidgets has to show to your students. So now I click on here, and now you can see that I've added the X and all the other symbols that will be shown as well here, alongside with the detected symbols, so the matrices that students have to add as well. If you don't find a symbol in here or in the editor, in the equation editor, it's probably on the computer, on the keyboard from your students. So that's it. I really hope this question is a good improvement for BookWidgets and that you can use it a lot, especially if you're a math teacher or a science teacher, and that it makes the life of you and your students easier so they can add formula and symbols right away as well without being limited by everything that's on their keyboard.